Imagine walking into a place where every single woman around you has committed crimes so brutal, so shocking, that the world outside had no choice but to lock them away forever. No one here is innocent. This is not an ordinary women's prison. This is a fortress, a living nightmare, and it is known as the world's most dangerous women's prison. The air is heavy with silence, yet it feels as if danger is breathing down your neck. The massive steel gates slam shut behind you, and you realize one terrifying truth. Once you step inside, you're no longer safe. Guards patrol every corner with weapons ready, not because they're afraid of an outside attack, but because of what's already locked inside. Women who have killed without mercy, masterminds of criminal empires, and violent gang leaders who still command power even from behind bars. Unlike men's prisons, where violence is expected, most people imagine women's prisons to be less threatening, maybe even soft. But the reality here is darker than most could ever imagine. In fact, many prison officers admit that working here is even more dangerous than in a male facility. Why? Because these women don't just fight with fists. They fight with strategy, manipulation, and psychological warfare. Every smile could hide a threat. Every whispered conversation could be a plan to kill. This prison was built decades ago, designed like a military base, with high concrete walls, electric fences, and towers that can shoot down anyone who tries to escape. But the true danger isn't someone breaking out. The true danger is what happens inside, where order is fragile and chaos can explode at any moment. Here, rival gangs carve their identities into the very walls. Cells are tattooed with secret codes. And loyalty is not just expected, it's demanded, often in blood. Inmates form alliances for survival, because if you're alone, you're already a target. The stories of these women are terrifying. Some are drug lords who once controlled entire cities. Others are assassins who murdered without hesitation, leaving behind trails of bodies. Some are infamous mothers who killed their own children, shocking the nation with their cruelty. And yet, within these walls, they all breathe the same air, eat the same meals, and fight for dominance in the same deadly game. But survival here isn't just about brute strength. It's about intelligence, manipulation, and knowing when to strike. Guards say they've seen women sharpen toothbrushes into knives, hide blades in their hair, and even smuggle in weapons through corrupt officers. Every single day is a gamble, because you never know when a fight will erupt, or when a prisoner will try to kill another in the cafeteria, in the showers, or even in the middle of the night. This prison isn't just a punishment facility. It's a kingdom of crime, run by those who refuse to surrender power. And as we step deeper into this story, you'll see that the inside of this women's prison is far more dangerous than anyone dares to believe. Who are these women that make this prison so terrifying? They're not ordinary criminals. They are the faces of fear, the masterminds of violence, and the silent rulers of an underworld that still thrives beyond these walls. When you look into their eyes, you don't just see regret. You see calculation. Each woman carries a story, a past drenched in crime, and for some, blood on their hands. But what makes them especially dangerous isn't only what they've done, but what they're still capable of doing. Take, for example, the drug queenpins. These women once ran massive cartels, controlling international smuggling routes and ordering executions as casually as others order dinner. Even in prison, their influence hasn't disappeared. Phones are smuggled in, guards are bribed, and from inside their cells, they continue pulling strings, sending orders to gangs on the outside, orchestrating crimes that never stop. For them, prison is not the end of power, it's just a new base of operations. Then, there are the contract killers, women who were once paid assassins, feared for their ruthlessness. Some of them killed dozens before they were caught, often leaving no evidence behind. In prison, they carry that same aura of intimidation. Other inmates fear crossing them because they know these women can turn anything, a spoon, a wire, even a pen, into a deadly weapon. But perhaps the most disturbing of all are those who killed their own families, mothers who poisoned their children, wives who murdered their husbands in cold blood, daughters who slaughtered their parents for money or revenge. Their crimes shocked entire nations, making headlines and sparking debates about how a woman could commit such unthinkable acts. Here, inside the prison, they're outcasts, even among killers, isolated, hated, yet equally feared. Life behind bars has also created new kinds of leaders. Some women, once small-time criminals, transform into gang commanders inside. They recruit followers, enforce strict rules, and build hierarchies that mirror the outside world. Others become extortionists, forcing weaker prisoners to give up food, clothes, or even their dignity just to survive. But not all the stories are of power. For every gang leader, there's a prisoner who lives in constant fear. These women are trapped in a nightmare, caught between violent groups, never knowing when someone might turn on them. Some break down under the pressure, while others learn to adapt, forming alliances, making trades, or even becoming informants for the guards just to stay alive one more day. And in the middle of all this chaos are the guards themselves, especially the female officers. Many of them admit that it's nearly impossible to control such prisoners. "These women don't fight like men," one officer explained. "They plan. They manipulate. They make you trust them, and then they strike when you least expect it." Inside these walls, every woman has a role to play. The leader, the enforcer, the manipulator, the victim. Together, they create a dangerous ecosystem where violence and power are the only true currencies. This is not just a prison. It's a kingdom ruled by some of the most dangerous women the world has ever known. And their stories are only the beginning. Step deeper into the prison, and you'll find a world that operates by its own set of rules. From the outside, you might think it's all about steel bars, locked cells, and guards keeping watch. But inside, life in this women's prison is more like a chess game. Every move is calculated. Every choice could mean survival or death. The daily routine starts with a deafening siren at dawn. Prisoners are forced out of their cells for roll call, a tense moment when guards scan every face to ensure no one is missing. For most, the day begins with hard labor, cooking, laundry, or cleaning the very corridors where violence often erupts. Others are assigned to prison workshops, making furniture or sewing uniforms. But make no mistake, these aren't peaceful jobs. Even in the kitchens, women have been known to fashion knives out of broken metal trays or hide drugs inside food supplies. Meals are another battlefield. The prison cafeteria may look orderly at first glance, but underneath, it's a power arena. Who sits where, who eats first, and who controls the food? These details matter. If you cross the wrong person, you might not make it out of lunch alive. Guards stand watch, but fights can break out in seconds. Trays flipped, fists flying, blades flashing. Sometimes the violence is so sudden, even the guards are powerless to stop it. Beyond the daily routine, there's an underground world that thrives within these walls. Gangs run their operations like miniature governments. They trade cigarettes, drugs, and even protection. Corruption plays a huge role here. Guards are often bribed to smuggle in contraband. A single cell phone can cost thousands inside, yet it can be the difference between controlling an empire on the outside or losing it forever. But survival isn't just about gangs or money, it's about forming alliances. Some prisoners join groups not out of loyalty, but because they have no choice. Alone, you're vulnerable. With a group, you might live another day. The weak pay a high price for protection. Sometimes their belongings, sometimes their labor, sometimes much worse. There's also a hidden hierarchy among the women. At the top are the infamous criminals, the ones whose names still make headlines. They command respect through fear. Beneath them are gang leaders, enforcers, and longtime prisoners who know the system better than anyone. At the very bottom are the newcomers, the women fresh to prison life, often shocked, broken, and completely unprepared for the brutality around them. Many of them don't last long without being claimed by a group or owned by someone stronger. Even guards admit that much of the control inside isn't in their hands. Some wings of the prison are effectively ruled by inmates themselves. "We just supervise," one officer once confessed. But the real authority comes from whoever controls the gangs. And then there are the nights. After lights out, the prison doesn't sleep. Whispers travel through the dark corridors. Deals are made. Plans are set. Fights erupt in the shadows, sometimes leaving bodies on the cold concrete floors by morning. Life inside these walls is a constant test of strength, cunning, and survival. For the women trapped here, there are only two options: adapt to the violence or be destroyed by it. Inside this prison, brutality is not an exception. It's a way of life. The walls are stained with decades of violence, and survival often comes at the cost of someone else's life. Here, every day is a battle, and the weak are swallowed whole by the system. Fights can erupt over anything: a stolen piece of bread, a word said in the wrong tone, or even a stare that lasts too long. What begins as an argument can quickly explode into chaos. Women use whatever they can find as weapons: broken glass, sharpened toothbrushes, even boiling water thrown onto a rival's face. It's not unusual for guards to enter a cell and find a prisoner lying unconscious, or worse, dead. But the brutality isn't just physical. Psychological warfare is just as deadly here. Some inmates are masters of manipulation, playing mind games to break down their enemies before striking. They spread rumors, isolate targets, and wait until the victim is at their weakest. Survival isn't always about who can fight the hardest. It's about who can outthink and outmaneuver the rest. One of the most terrifying aspects of life here is the riots. When tension boils over, the entire prison can descend into madness. Fires are set, doors are smashed, and guards are forced to retreat for their own safety. Inmates seize control, turning the prison into a battlefield. Sometimes these uprisings last for hours, sometimes for days, until heavily armed riot police storm in to take back control. By the time the smoke clears, the damage is staggering: dozens injured, cells destroyed, and sometimes bodies lined up on the floor. For the guards, survival is no less brutal. They walk into work every day knowing they are outnumbered and often outsmarted. Many officers admit they live in constant fear, never sure if they'll make it back home at night. Corruption is common, not only because of greed, but because it's often a survival tactic. Some guards accept bribes to look the other way, because refusing could mean a target is placed on their backs. And then there are the stories that haunt the darkest corners of this prison. Women who have been attacked in the showers, strangled in their sleep, or beaten for refusing to obey gang rules. There are tales of secret courts run by inmates, where punishment is decided for anyone who breaks the unwritten laws of prison life. The sentences are brutal: beatings, stabbings, or in some cases, execution. Yet in this endless cycle of violence, some women find ways to adapt. They learn the unspoken codes: who to respect, who to fear, who to avoid. They trade favors, build alliances, and carefully navigate the minefield of prison politics. For many, the key to survival is staying invisible, keeping their heads down, their mouths shut, and hoping not to draw attention. But for others, invisibility isn't enough. They fight back with equal violence, earning respect through fear. These women rise to the top of the hierarchy, becoming the rulers of their blocks. For them, brutality isn't just survival, it's power. In this prison, mercy is rare, trust is dangerous, and survival is never guaranteed. The only certainty is that every day inside these walls comes with a price, and not everyone lives to pay it. Why is this prison remembered as the most dangerous women's prison in the world? It's not just the crimes of those locked inside, it's what this place represents. The raw, unfiltered face of humanity when all rules collapse. The truth is, this prison isn't just a facility built to hold dangerous women. It's a mirror reflecting society's darkest failures. Many of these inmates were shaped long before they walked through these gates. Poverty, abuse, gangs, and violence forged them into who they became. But once inside, instead of rehabilitation, the prison often becomes a breeding ground for more crime, more brutality, and more trauma. It is less a place of justice and more a kingdom where survival is the only law. Some of the most shocking stories come from those who manage to escape. Over the years, there have been daring breakouts, tunnels dug by hand, guards bribed with fortunes, even helicopters landing inside the courtyard to pluck prisoners straight out of the chaos. Each time, the world is stunned, asking how such dangerous women could outsmart a system built to contain them. But these escapes only prove one thing. No wall is high enough, no gate strong enough to truly cage determination. The legacy of this prison also lies in the scars it leaves on those who survive it. Former inmates often leave more hardened, more dangerous than when they arrived. Some return to their old lives, picking up where they left off, running gangs or cartels with renewed ruthlessness. Others vanish, forever marked by the horrors they endured inside. Even the guards, who walk free every day, carry invisible wounds, PTSD, nightmares, and a lingering fear that one day an enemy they made inside will find them outside. Yet, despite all this, the prison continues to stand. Governments boast about its high walls and maximum security. Officials claim it keeps society safe by locking away its most violent women. And maybe that's true. But behind those walls, the reality is far darker than any official report will admit. This prison is not a place of second chances. It is a place where brutality is currency, where manipulation is power, and where hope is often the first thing to die. For the women trapped here, there are no real winners, only survivors. And for the world outside, the existence of this prison is both a comfort and a warning. Comfort, because these women are locked away. Warning, because the violence inside these walls reminds us of the violence that still exists beyond them. So when we call this the world's most dangerous women's prison, it's not just about the inmates, the guards, or the riots. It's about what it teaches us. That evil doesn't have a gender, that crime knows no boundaries, and that when society builds walls to contain darkness, sometimes the darkness only grows stronger within them. And as the steel gates close once more, sealing off the screams and whispers of those inside, one truth remains chillingly clear. This prison is not just a place, it's a legacy of fear that will never be forgotten.